Have you ever wondered about the humanity of the Prophet Muhammad as mentioned in the Quran? In the 18th chapter, 110th verse, we find a humbling depiction of the Prophet. It reads, "Say, O Muhammad, I am no more than a human being like you." This emphasizes the fundamental Islamic belief in the Prophet's humanity, underscoring that despite his divine mission, he too was a human being. Indeed, Prophet Muhammad, despite his prophethood, is a human being like us. What does the Quran say about worship and who we should devote our religious practices to? This question is answered quite clearly in verses 3, 79 and 80, where it is stated that no person who has been gifted with scripture, wisdom and prophethood would ever direct the people to worship them over God. Instead, they would instruct the people to be devotees of the Lord, following the teachings of the scripture they have learned. Further, the verse clarifies that no prophet would command you to take angels and other prophets as lords, as doing so would be a departure from faith. In verse 21-25, a recurring message across all prophets is reaffirmed. There is no God but I, so serve me. This emphasizes the unity of God's message across different prophets and the singular focus of worship. Thus, worship in Islam is reserved solely for God, not for any human or celestial beings. What is the role of the prophet, as outlined in the Quran? Let's delve into a few verses to shed some light on this. In verse 99 of chapter 5, we read, "The messenger's sole duty is to convey. God knows what you reveal and what you conceal." This verse clearly underlines that the prophet's main responsibility is to deliver God's message. Furthermore, chapter 42, verse 48, reiterates this point, stating, "If they turn away, we did not send you as their guardian. Your sole mission is delivering the message." This tells us that the prophet's role is not to enforce faith or act as a guardian, but simply to guide. In the same vein, verse 20 of chapter 3 reads, "If they argue with you, say, I have surrendered myself to God and those who follow me. And say to those who were given the scripture and to the unlearned, have you surrendered? If they have surrendered, then they are guided. But if they turn away, then your duty is to convey. God is seeing of the servants." And finally, verse 252 of chapter 2 affirms, "These are God's revelations, which we recite to you in truth. You are one of the messengers." This underlines the prophet's role as a messenger, reciting God's revelations in truth. The prophet, as the Quran states, is a conveyor of God's message, guiding us towards the path of righteousness. Opening. What does the Quran say about its own nature and the responses it might receive? The Quran, in its verses, often refers to itself and the reactions it may elicit. For example, in verses 69, 48 and 49, it confidently declares itself as a message for the righteous, while acknowledging that some will reject it. This is a testament to the Quran's self-awareness of its role in guiding the virtuous and its acceptance of the reality of rejection. In verse 4:82, the Quran invites us to reflect upon its teachings, asserting that any discrepancies would be evidence of its non-divine origins. This is a bold challenge that underscores the Quran's confidence in its divine authorship and its consistency. The Quran also repeatedly emphasizes its accessibility. In verses 54, 17, 22, 32, and 40, it asserts that it has been made easy to learn, remember, understand, and memorize. This is a clear invitation from the Quran for us to engage with it actively and deeply. However, in verse 6, 116, the Quran warns us about the dangers of blindly following conjecture and assumptions, a potential pitfall that could lead us away from the path of God. This warning underlines the importance of critical thinking and discernment in our engagement with the world. Regrettably, verse 25:30 laments the abandonment of the Quran by some. This poignant verse serves as a reminder of the Quran's enduring relevance and its yearning for our engagement and understanding. Closing. The Quran, therefore, invites us to ponder, learn, remember, and understand its teachings, warning us against following conjecture and assumptions. So what have we learned from these verses? We've uncovered the prophet's humanity, affirmed the sole worship of God, recognize the Prophet's role as a messenger, and embrace the Quran's invitation to learn and understand. May these insights foster peace, love, and respect among us all. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of Quranic verses.